I grew up with my 5 brothers in a very big, very old house in Rochester, Minnesota. I wrote a book about it titled 30 Rooms to Hide In, which alludes to how my brothers and I, and our mother, basically hid from our father, who was an orthopedic surgeon at Rochester's famous Mayo Clinic. We hid because in his final years he was just radioactively alcoholic and, for all intents, insane, really. And he died in 1966 when I was 12. The thing is, it's not a sad story because my 5 brothers and I, we had so many great times there. We all had different stories about what it was like growing up in that house, but over time, as we reminisced, I realized our stories began to sound rehearsed or abbreviated, rather, like the stories were only what we remembered, and I wanted to get to the living memory, reality, as close as I could get. So I set about trying to rebuild my family's history. So I did this deep dive into the family records, photographs, hospital records, psychiatric records. I interviewed people, family friends, doctors at Mayo. My brothers also kept diaries then, which helped. And more than anything, there were my mother's letters. Hundreds of letters that she wrote to her father. As I did all this, it started to come back to life, and I began to see how my mom, Myra is her name, how she was the main load-bearing beam that held the entire house up. A house where we 6 boys then managed to have this insane time growing up, being maniacs, listening to the Beatles, running around, making movies, and having a traumatized sort of fun. My oldest 2 brothers, Kip and Jeff, formed a band they called the Pagans, and they were like gods to us younger 4. They cut a 45 and they played all over Minnesota, and of course the band became another thing Dad would get drunk and crazy about, but we didn't care because, it was cool. Cool was very important. Kip, Jeff, and Mom, they took the brunt of the abuse from Dad. And near the end, when Dad was fired from the Mayo Clinic, he was crazy by then, flying around the country trying to land a job, showing up drunk at interviews. And he died in a motel room in Augusta, Georgia. The police report is strange, and there are details from the death scene that suggest to me that his death was a suicide, but it's sort of unclear. In any case, after he died, we moved out of that beautiful old house. I still visit it from time to time, and I still remember what it was like running through the hallways of that big old place, half the time playing hide and seek and having fun, and half the time just hiding.